Today I'll be reading Emma by Cheryl to celebrate National African American Reading. It is important that we celebrate books by African Americans.
I'm so happy to be here with you this evening. I'm so excited to be here. I took the night off from my live show. I am not on the air tonight. I'm here with you because this is a great way to salute Black History Month.
Hi, welcome to Reading with Dr. Liz. This is a special Black History Month edition. Today I'll be reading Emma by Cheryl Wills. I was lucky enough to meet Cheryl Wills last week. Here's a picture of Cheryl Wills and I at a special Black History function. Introduction. My great-great-great-grandmother Emma Wills' story was one of the lost stories of the Civil War era, 1861 to 1865, until I unearthed it. As near as I can tell, this story is true. I pieced it together from historical records about my family before and after the war in Haywood County, Tennessee. Like most family histories, there are gaps, so I used my knowledge of the time and place to imagine Emma's transition from an enslaved girl to a free woman. Emma's bondage is an uncommon story. Even though Emma's father was enslaved, he had privileges on the plantation that few other enslaved people had, and those privileges extended to his wife and children. My great-great-great-grandmother Emma grew up working in the home of John Bertie Moore and his wife. Emma was well acquainted with the couple's privileged children, Joel, Sally, and John. Emma was a brave girl who lived in America during a painful period. I hope her legacy inspires readers to continue to stand up for what they believe is important. And here's a picture of Emma at age 10. Haywood County, Tennessee, 1858. Emma knew she was different. Other slaves worked master's fields, but she took pride in caring for his children. Her chores waited while she galloped stick ponies with young Master Joe and played dolls with his little sister Sally. Was this what freedom felt like, she wondered? When the tutor came to teach young Master Joe and Miss Sally, Mrs. Moore sent Emma back to her chores. But Emma listened in when Mrs. Moore wasn't looking and dared to dream. "Teach me reading and writing," Emma whispered to young Master Joe. One day after his lessons, together they traced forbidden letters in the dirt. "Son, come inside now," Mrs. Moore called. At the same time, Mother said, "Help me carry these pecans, child." Emma heard the echo of trouble between their words. "You want a whipping from Master Moore?" Mother whispered. "Colored folks aren't supposed to read and write. You're old enough now to see the truth." Emma already knew the sorry truth. Freedom, reading, writing. 3 forbidden dreams. Master Moore whipped anyone who dared disobey, and then he sold their families to other plantations. Because Papa ran Master Moore's cotton plantation, Master never whipped or sold Papa's family. Emma knew she belonged to Master Moore, but Papa's position protected her. And Emma dared to help other slave children. When one slave girl broke Mrs. Moore's teacup, Emma took the blame. When Mother was allowed to take leftover pork from the white folks' kitchen, Emma shared her portion with the slave children who worked in the fields. And she dared to ask young Master Joe to teach her to read and write again. "You know I can't, Emma," he whispered. "It ain't right," she said. By 1861, sounds of Civil War echoed in the sweltering air. North fought South. Cannon fire shook the house. Soldiers marched beside the Hatchie River as they crossed the plantation. "President Lincoln and the North gonna free us, child," Mother said to Emma. For 4 long years, Emma hid a handful of hope in her heart. Maybe a free girl could learn to read and write. When the South finally surrendered in 1865, the walls of slavery came tumbling down. Emma and her family were free at last. For the first time in their lives, they belonged to each other and no one else. Papa and Mother stayed to farm a plot of more land for pay. "It's all we know," Papa said. Emma grew taller as her family grew larger. She minded her younger brothers and sisters and fretted because the tutor never came to the farm anymore. Her dream of reading and writing withered. Instead, she told the children stories of heroes and sang songs of freedom to make them strong. One day, an army man named Sandy Wills came to ask Papa for a job. Emma followed the strong, handsome war hero with her eyes. More than once, she caught him peeping at her. They married in 1869, not in the field as most slaves used to, but in the white folks' house with Joel Moore's blessing. Emma's eyes sparkled. Sandy stood tall. Whites and colored guests celebrated the first official colored folks' marriage on the Moore plantation. Sandy signed his mark on the marriage license. They couldn't read it, but it was proof they were married. In 1870, Emma and Sandy started a family. She smiled to think their children would be born free. When baby William was born, Emma wished she could write his birthday in her family record book by herself like the white folks did. Instead, she waited for Joe Moore to visit the farm. "My child will grow up knowing his birthday, sir," Emma said. "We all have birthdays," Joe Moore said. "Not us former slaves," Emma replied. "My son was born that many days ago." She pointed to the marks on the wall. 7 more children followed. Each time, Emma gave Joe Moore a pecan pie. "My children will grow up knowing their birthdays, sir." Each time Emma watched him record a new birth in the book. She fought back tears because she couldn't write the names herself. Sometimes a teacher came by to teach Emma and Sandy's children. Emma's faded dream rebloomed for her children. But a few years later, in 1889, everything changed. Emma cried a year of tears. Tears of sadness for the loss of her beloved Sandy. Tears bitter and sweet for baby James, born a month later. Tears of worry for her 9 fatherless children. For the first time in her life, Emma felt helpless. Emma and her children kept farming, but they never had enough money after Sandy died. Some folks told her the government had set aside money for former soldiers and their families. Colored soldiers, too, she wondered. She dared to apply. "My Sandy fought for my freedom and for these United States," Emma said to Joe Moore the next time he visited the farm. "Will you send the government his honorable army discharge?" Emma waited and waited. "Denied," the government replied, because the discharge papers said Sandy's last name was Willis instead of Wills. Emma knew from experience that fighting for her rights would not be easy. She gathered her courage and tried again. "Please send my marriage license," she told Joe Moore. Sandy signed it with his mark over 20 years ago. Emma waited and waited. Denied. The government replied because the marriage license said Sandy's last name was Williams instead of Wills. "I'm sorry, Emma," Joe Moore said. "We've done all we can do." Emma hid her anger and frustration. There must be something more. The answer came to her as she hugged her family record book. "Joe Moore, please send the government the birth records of my 9 children, written in your fine hand," she said. They proved Sandy was their father. Emma waited and waited. Accepted. The government finally paid Emma money for Sandy's service. Her family was saved. "I have honored your papa's memory and his service to the United States of America," Emma said to her children. Today, Emma died more than 100 years ago, but her dreams of reading and writing left an unforgettable mark on her family. I know because I'm her great-great-great-granddaughter. Emma's children learned to read because of their mother. If I could give her one gift, I'd show her how to finally write her own name. Emma. It shows how one woman's determination and courage can overcome any obstacle. I look forward to the day when Cheryl Wills will be visiting Mosaic sometime in May to share her story with our scholars, as well as her journey in becoming an amazing journalist. Thank you, Cheryl, for this wonderful book. Cheryl Wills has also authored another book about her family, The Emancipation of Grandpa Sandy Wills. This book is available throughout Mosaic. Go check it out. York College will be featuring Cheryl Wills on February 20, 2020 for African American reading. If you're interested, reach out to York College for more details.